Okay, Jared, two of the traditional powers of Utah County are 0-2 after the first 2 weeks. Lone Peak and Orem are both winless. Which of these teams do you think there's more cause for concern?
Well, I'm going to pick Lone Peak. I was surprised. I picked early on in the season. I thought Lone Peak would compete for the region title because they always seem to be able to put people in and replace people.
Because you should have known that American Fork was the team to beat there.
Well, we'll talk when we get closer to region play on that. But I thought Lone Peak was going to come out and have a decent defense and the offense would catch up. That's the way they usually do it. But to lose 20-0 to Bountiful, to lose 20-12 to Viewmont, I'm very worried about Lone Peak. On both sides of the ball, they're giving up more points than they thought they would this early in the season, and their offense isn't being able to compensate for that. I don't know, and they play Timpview this week, so I don't know if they're going to win a preseason game.
Well, Lone Peak always starts with a tough schedule. They've always traditionally had probably the toughest schedule of any team in the Valley, so it's not a surprise that they're off to a slow start. I do agree with you that it is a little disconcerting just because of the way we know that the offense typically starts slow, but they really haven't shown a whole lot in the first two games. But Jared, my pick for most disappointing so far is Orem. I think you have to be really concerned with an Orem team who both of us thought, if everything went right, could contend for the region title. They've scored 2 touchdowns in 2 games. They show up against Viewmont and get totally worked. They go down to Snow Canyon and don't show up. They've scored 2 touchdowns in 2 games. I know it's going to help this week getting Orem back home, but I'll tell you what, that team has been a disappointment so far.
Well, I'm not as worried about Orem as I am about Lone Peak because they went and played a Viewmont team that was really up for that game after they had a tragedy. One of the football players died earlier this month, I believe, and so that team was really psyched out to play, get on the field and play a game. And those southern schools are really, really good. Dixie, Snow Canyon, and Pineview. So I'm not surprised that Orem, when they made that trip, struggled against Snow Canyon. So I'm not as worried about the Tigers.
But you got to show something. They weren't even in any of these games. I mean, you got to compete. I mean, there was, at least Lone Peak was respectable in their week 2 game
when they lost to Viewmont, 20-12.
20-12. But I'm talking about both games were lopsided for.
Well, I just think Orem was put in bad situations. That's a long drive to go down to Snow Canyon. That's a bad situation to go up and play a psyched out Viewmont team.
I
just think Orem was in a bad situation. I reserve judgment on how bad they are until after this week.
Well, I'm not saying they're that bad. I'm just saying they're
more cause for concern.
Yeah,
more cause for concern.